It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, I want to talk about IT services, but I'm going to focus on master service providers, why I think there's a flaw in that program. And as I look at my friends in the print sector trying to move into IT and I want them to go upscale, I don't even want them to sell the $2,000 to $5,000 a month service contracts. I want them to focus on the 10 and above. I don't see how the master service providers could play in that space. I spent the last 3 years talking to some master service providers. They have no interest in helping me help the print dealers, so I'm going to end that conversation. And as I listen to the master service providers and as I listen to the consultants in the space, still talking to dealers the same way they did 10 years ago, and I did a video on that not too long ago, but it's disturbing. But there's some good news. Last week, I talked to a dealer that gets it. Last week, I talked to a dealer that's out there selling $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month service contracts. They were excited to tell me they just got their first six-figure one. That's exciting. You see, they could visualize it. They knew what they were going after. They moved upscale. And the funny thing is, this gentleman was talking to me, and he's like, yeah, nobody believes me, Ray. Just like they don't believe you when you talk about Milton, they don't believe it. And I'm like, of course they don't believe it, because they'd rather believe what they're comfortable with. Folks, you know, I put an article out there on LinkedIn this weekend, and I was talking about how people will follow people. So picture the cowboy in the desert, and there's other people following him, and they see this oasis out there of stability. Oh, we can get there. And everybody in the group knows it's a mirage, but they still go that way. They end up showing up at the mirage with an empty canteen, and they all, die of thirst. Folks, you're going to die of thirst trying to get into IT services if you keep listening to these nut jobs. And I'm sorry to call them that and be that break with it, but I'm sick of it because it's not changing. I don't care if they want to work with me or not. The reality of it is when I listen to them in the marketplace, they're telling all the dealers the exact same things. Look, if you want to be a commodity house, sign up with these people. It doesn't really matter. But that's not what I want you to do. I want you to go upscale. And today I'm going to share with you why that's important. And I'm going to share the differences between a commodity IT services house in an IT services house that's going to sell 10, 20, 30, 40, and eventually $100,000 a month service contract. So without any further ado, let's just jump on the Sharp Magic board. So let me turn on the board here, and if you look on the right side of my screen, I have Value House. So this is the IT services company, like the gentleman I talked to last week, and eventually I'll have him on the end of the day with Ray, so stay tuned for that. But these are the folks that are going to go out there and get 10,000, 50,000. Boy, one day they'll get 100, and they'll be all excited. They're selling value. This is the commodity house. These are the people that are doing $2,000 to $5,000 a month IT service contracts. They're happy there, but it's a commodity. Okay, it is. It's a commodity. The commodity house, they're doing free assessments. And it's really a proposal disguised as an assessment. Okay, and I've had enough videos on that nonsense. The value house, they're doing fee-based assessments. It's cartography. These people are map writers, man. They're smart. They're analyzing with details. They're selling these things. It's the first thing they sold the customer was the assessment. It's its own product. They hand that to the customer. Here it is. You paid for it. Here it is. They don't even care if the customer uses that to go buy services from somebody else. Here's something to blow your mind. They might actually do an assessment that's fee-based. Tell the customer, here's your assessment. This is your roadmap. But you're not really a fit for our IT services company. And they'll explain why they're not a fit. Maybe they don't drive enough revenue per month. Could be the reason. Maybe their habits are so terrible that they feel like they could never transition them into doing things the right way to keep them safe and secure. And they don't want a bunch of noise messing up their other customers. But that's a reality. I talked to my buddy Milton. That happens a lot. He'll do an assessment. It's just an assessment. Here you go. That's what they bought from him. Turns out it's not the right fit. Folks, if you're doing it the right way, that's a reality. But it doesn't matter because you got paid for what you did, right? The commodity house, they talk about security. They'll even put the word on their website. If it's a print sector moving into IT, they'll say things like, we understand security. Our print devices have been the most secure for over the last decade. I laugh, but folks, this is crazy stuff, but that's what we say. Over here in the value house, they're talking about compliance. They're talking about cybersecurity. They understand how verticals are affected by the compliances that they need, right? They understand all of this. They have education platforms to help these customers. You see? You see what you could bring in extra value? We got people over here on the commodity side, they don't even bring up cyber insurance. That's a whole nother discussion. Stay tuned for some of those videos. Over here on the commodity side, we talk about help desk. Over here, we have a concierge program. It's a whole different buyer, whole different persona. These aren't people you're going to find in Walmart parking lot, okay? Over here, on-site technicians. The value company, in-person consultations. Experts. Yes, they have level 1 techs too. Folks, they do. They have level 2 technicians. They have server admin technicians. But the whole environment's different. They're showing up to a customer that's paying $100 or $20 or $50,000. Those techs are trained for that persona of that customer. And you would be wasting your money on training people in that talents field to run around selling $2,000 a month service contracts, because this value-added house is paying more money for their labor based on that. You can't afford to pay that kind of labor for that kind of a person. I'm just saying. Over here in the commodity house, we have a saving money environment. It's all about saving money. When they got the $2,000 deal, they ran back to the office and told everybody that the customer was paying $2,250. We lowered their price by $250 and we got the deal. Sounds a lot like a print deal, doesn't it? Think about it. This is a danger. The print sector, they sell, 80, 90% of their own customers, and then they save the customer money, which means they take money from the service department to sell a customer. The value added, they get the customer to allocate more money so they can increase their perfection. The prices go up over time, not down. That's a big difference, folks. I'm going to show you that on the next slide. Over here in the commodity place, they lose clients to a lower price provider. That's just the reality. The same way they got the deal. In the middle of the night, they get a phone call. Hey, yeah, well, my brother-in-law moved to town. We're going to go ahead and use him. By the way, he's $200 cheaper. Do you really want to play that game? Over here, they actually raise prices on clients as needed, even if they lose them. They don't even consider that. If they lose them, they lose them. What they consider is they got to raise the price so that customer fits in the business model. And whatever that customer's doing changed, or maybe the MSP itself, business model had to change with all these security threats that are going on. Maybe they had to add more human capital. They had to make more investments. They don't have a problem going to those customers and saying, we're raising your price. And here's why. Back in 2018, you know what? We didn't know half of what we know today around security. And the bad actors, they're getting really, really good. And we have to continuously invest in cybersecurity to make sure we can protect you. Therefore, we're raising your prices. Those customers that are paying that $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month, they're not going to care about that. They're just going to say, okay. Folks, this is true stuff. This is true stuff. But if you hang around a bunch of $2,000 to $5,000, customers, if they're only going to pay $2,000 to $5,000 a month, you're not going to hear those conversations. So now, let's go to this next slide. I'm hoping this next slide kind of brings all this home, because this is where I have a hard time with the master service providers helping our dealer friends get into that value-added IT services company. Because if you look on my screen over here, let me get my pen working. If you look on my screen over here, on the right, we have a Mercedes-Benz with the wing doors. That's the customer that's paying this $10,000 a month for IT services. They drove by 10 Ford dealerships in the town to buy the Mercedes with the wing doors. That's a value-added buyer. They know what they want, and they're going to go get it. And they appreciate perfection. Then over here, you got the 10-year-old Saturn. That's the customer that'll pay $2,000 a month. That's the commodity buyer, and that's the reality, okay? This driver and this driver are two different personas. The dealership that's selling this driver and the dealership that's selling this driver are two different personas of businesses. The dealers that are selling this driver are charging for the assessments. All those things. This car driver, if you bring it back to the car, will pay $450 for an oil change. Because they'll come to their office, pick the car up, change the oil, and bring it back. They'll come to their house, they'll do whatever they got to do. They'll pick them up to take them to the airport. They'll do a lot of things. You'd be surprised, folks, when you get into that kind of a car, right? These people over here, they're going to pay $80 at Jiffy Lube. And hopefully they can find a coupon so they can get it for $75. And they're going to go to Jiffy Lube, they're going to stand in line, and they're just going to wait there. That's what they're going to do. They can't even comprehend anybody paying $450 for an oil change. Just like people can't comprehend that dealers can actually go out there and sell a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 a month IT service contracts. Because they don't want to. Because they themselves would never do it. Folks, you're not going to find these customers in the Walmart parking lot. But if you want to go upscale, you got to start thinking about this. Because here's the reality. If you're using a master service provider, this customer and this customer are calling that same support person. That's the reality. How does that support person know that they're talking to the $10,000 a month customer, let alone a $100,000 a month customer, versus the $2,000 customer? It's a help desk. They're trying to solve a problem as quick as they can. Now, a lot of people will say this, well, Ray, we don't care if it's a $10,000 customer or a $2,000 customer. We take care of our customers. We treat them all the same. Making you believe that they're going to treat them all like a $10,000 customer. When in fact, 80 or 90% of all the master service providers' customers fall in the 2,000 to 5,000 customer range. Let's just be honest, folks. If there's a master service provider out there that could put in my comments what their average revenue is from one of their dealers' clients, I would be interested to have you do that. Okay? Just put it in the comments. Here, this is our company. We're a master service provider. Here's our average revenue from our clients. See what it is. If it's in this $2,000 to $5,000 range, folks, how in the world is that master service provider going to take care of that customer? And I'm not digging on the master service providers, but the reality of it is, I want you all to go upscale. And if you're listening to a master service provider who's comfortable in this space, if you're listening to consultants who are comfortable in this space, they're not going to take you here. And they're going to tell you that people that say they're there are lying. And they're going to do everything they can to keep you in the comfort zone for them. We got to stop thinking about what's comfortable for us, okay? And start thinking about what's good for our business. And running around with a bunch of $2,000 a month service contracts isn't good for your business, because you'll keep doing that and eventually the revenue will just fall off the floor. Because you know what? Someone else will come in and do that for $800. We see AT&T getting involved with RMM and help desk. We got Salesforce getting involved. Someone's going to come and take away these $2,000 a month customers with a much easier way to do business on a platform that they can scale at this low-end fruit. And as technology advances, these low-end customers aren't even going to need an IT services company. But these people over here will continue to need them because they got to make sure they stay compliant. They need people that understand their business, not just IT, but their business and how their business intersects with that IT. Those are the customers you need to be going after, folks, regardless of what these people are telling you. You're not going to get there at this price. It's too late. You could have done that 15 years ago. But now we need to move upscale. I'm hoping today's video helped you all understand this a little bit more. Stay tuned because there's a lot more coming on this, my friends, because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.